Hello, today we will start to talk about chemical reaction. Here you have a typical example of a chemical equation, and you have two questions that you will be able to answer at the end of this lesson. As first, what is this chemical reaction showing the formation of, and do you think this equation is balanced, and why? So let's start. As first, let's give some definition about chemical reaction. A chemical reaction is a process that involves a rearrangement of atoms, molecules, or ions. Substances react together to form new substance with different properties. This is a very important thing. Different properties. Substances react to form new substances with different properties. Different properties means that they are completely different from the original substances. You have some example. For example, rust. Rust is formed by oxygen and iron that react together, but it has different properties both than iron and oxygen. And another example, which is more clear for you, table salt. You are used to eat table salt, but it is formed by sodium metal and chlorine gas. And for sure you don't eat neither sodium metal nor chlorine gas. So the properties of what is formed are completely different than the properties of what react. Second definition about chemical equation. Chemical equation is the way we describe writing a chemical reaction. It is divided, there are the formulas divided by an arrow. The formulas before the arrow are the reactants, and the formula after the arrows are the product. Reactants are the substances that undergo change, whilst products are the new substances produced from the same. So, an equation is a representation of a chemical reaction in which the reactants and the products are expressed as a formula. For example, hydrogen and oxygen give rise to water. Hydrogen and oxygen are reactant, water is the product. So when we talk, we often say write the reaction of. Actually, we don't write the reaction, but we write the equation that represents the reaction. To understand properly how to balance a reaction, we have to remind the law of conservation of matter, that you know also as the law of Lavoisier, and it says two very important things, which are that the mass of the product is always equal to the mass of the reactants, and this is also, we can also say, mass is neither created nor destroyed in a chemical reaction. At this point you should see, as a listening training, this short video. You will find it on the WeSchool board. I cannot connect now because I'm afraid it won't work like we tried today. So, what to do for balancing an equation? For balancing an equation, we have to work with coefficient. Again, if you look at the equation of water producing, you will notice that the number of oxygen atoms is not the same in reactant and products. But if the law of conservation of mass is conserved, they must be the same. To be the same, we have to work with coefficient. Remember, what is a coefficient? Sorry. Okay, we can do it here. Coefficient is a number that we put in front of the formula. In general, the number I write in front is the coefficient. And the coefficient multiply all the atoms present in the formula. For example, 2H2O means that we have 2 multiplied by 2, 4 hydrogen, and 2 multiplied by 1, 2 oxygen atom. So, if we want to balance the equation of the reaction of water production, we see that we have a right number of hydrogen, but a wrong number of oxygen. In order to have the same number of oxygen atom, we have to add a 2 in front of the water formula, so that we have 2 oxygen in the reactant and 2 in the product. But in this way we have 4 hydrogen, 2 multiplied by 2, and in order to have 4 hydrogen also in the reactant, we have to add a 2 also here. We can skip this slide. And we give a look to the rule that allows us not to make a mistake in balancing. As first, I have always to check, the metal atoms. So if here I write reactant and products, I start from the metal in this case is calcium, and I have 1 and 1, so calcium is okay. Then I have to look for non-metal, in this case chlorine. Chlorine, I have 1 in the reactant and 2 in the product. In order to have 2 also in the reactant, I have to add a 2 in front of the formula. Then, again, reactant and product, I control hydrogen. Hydrogen, I have 2 and 2, 4. Whilst in the product I have only 2. So in order to have 4, I have to add a 2 in front of water. And as last, I control oxygen. And if I haven't made any mistake, for sure oxygen is already balanced and it doesn't need any correction. Indeed, here I have 2 oxygen, 2, because I have to consider this, and here I have 1 multiplied by 2, 2 and 2. So oxygen is okay, and the reaction is balanced. For today is enough. Just remind the definition. What is a chemical reaction? A chemical reaction is a process in which atoms of the same or different elements rearrange themselves to form a new substance, remember, with different properties. While they do so, they either absorb or give off heat. Reactants are the substances that undergo change. Products are the new substances produced from the change. What is a chemical equation? A chemical equation is a representation of a chemical reaction in which the reactants and products are expressed as formula, and we use equation to represent reaction. Last but not least, law of conservation of matter. The mass of the product is always equal to the mass of the reactant. Mass is neither created nor destroyed in a chemical reaction. That's all for today. You will find task on WeSchool